What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News, and I got some new news for you concerning Gennady Golovkin and Danny Jacobs. You know, this is Monday night, and we got, 5 more days to go until we get the showdown. He's going to be at Madison Square Garden, and I just got through watching some more footage of both of them, you know, and then Danny Jacobs when he fought Ishii Smith, and Golovkin, of course, his last fight when he fought Kell Brook. And I'm looking at this. It's going to be a chess match. And here's the equation. The advantages for Danny, he's faster. We all know that. But Danny Jacobs throws a lot of punches. And I noticed in the Smith fight, he did throw a lot of punches. However, that was when Danny Jacobs was undefeated. And he hadn't had that loss yet, that kind of bizarre loss, I like to say, against Pitrook, and he proved he needed to be, he could stay in there. And he got hurt in that fight. I remember, can't remember what round now. I think it was like the 7th round. He was hurt. That was kind of a dirty fight, and it was an emotional fight, but he was hurt with the right hand. And, that's due to Danny Jacobs he gets kind of complacent at times. A lot of times it's like he throws a lot of punches and then, he'll take a walk around the park or a walk around the block, some people like to state. But that's when you throw a lot of punches and then you kind of, use some footwork and make adjustments by movement, And Danny Jacobs, when he did that against Smith. Smith was able then to throw his own punches because Danny Jacobs, not only did he have his right hand down a little bit, his defense wasn't where it should have been, especially when he does that step, to take that walk around the block, and I noticed Jacobs, he's able to get hurt, He doesn't have the worst chin, mind you, because he took a lot of shots, but he doesn't have the best either. And Smith was able to take his shots because Smith took a lot of punishment from Danny Jacobs, and Danny Jacobs really in the later rounds really just started teeing off on him. And it just really showed that Ishii Smith's he's a durable guy anyway. I don't think that he'll do that with Golovkin because Golovkin is a type of guy, he will get punched a lot in this fight. Now that's just granted if Golovkin doesn't land one of those bombs, or Jacobs could land, the equal bomb because Jacobs does have good punching power, but it's different punching power, I'll explain later. But Golovkin will get hit a lot because he doesn't move his head and he guards himself. Basically, Golovkin, he uses his jab. Everything starts off the jab. He's a boxer puncher, but he'll and he states he'll be cautious. I don't know. Maybe that means you might see more of a David Lemieux type fight, and that was a really good fight, and he just showed his boxing skills. A lot of people was disappointed, but I wasn't. It just revealed to me what type of fighter he really was, being Golovkin. But he started everything with the jab, and in this fight, I anticipate Golovkin to start with the jab. I don't see him leading with a hook, unless Jacobs tries to elude left, elude to his right, which is Golovkin's left, and then Golovkin might, launch that punch. But I think that's one of Golovkin's tools where it could get him countered. Because I noticed in the Kell Brook fight, when he did, throw that left hook, he almost threw it kind of like David Tua at times. I don't know, he was kind of sluggish and he looped it a lot, And that punch, that was a looping punch, and he missed badly. And that's when Kell Brook was able to, to hit him with that right hand or whatnot, and not saying he can't throw a hook a different way. But in that particular fight, he was. And I think he was throwing that punch just to see where Kell Brook was going to land, because Kell Brook moved a lot because he's a boxer. He should have. He did the right thing. I just hate he got his, orbital bone broken and busted in. But, he was doing a really good job boxing Golovkin. Now, Danny Jacobs revealed that, if you replaced him in that ring that night, it would have been a different story. So we just got to see that. I don't see Golovkin lunging with those hooks. I see him following behind the jab and using the jab to come in. And if Jacobs throws combinations, what's going to happen? Golovkin's going to brace himself. He pretty much, he doesn't have any head movement. He kind of just comes in out on the jab, behind the jab, and he kind of braces himself with punches and using his chin. He tucks his chin and he comes in. He just comes straight in. He steps in or he shifts in. And then when he shifts, that's one thing that got Danny Jacobs, punched and, dropped by Pit Rock, because Pit Rock did the same technique, the shifting technique. They use that a lot in Eastern Europe, especially with Eastern Europe fighters, that get better leverage on your punches when you change your pivot foot, And I see Golovkin doing that, kind of cutting off the ring. Danny, if he keeps him in the middle of the ring, he has a better chance of getting him. But if he gets lackadaisical and kind of gets lazy like he did with Smith, which I don't think he's going to do in a fight of this multitude. I don't see that. So we're not even going to assume that he's going to do that. Maybe in the later rounds if it gets that long. But I see Danny using the ring, boxing him like Kell Brook did. They're basically going to use the same game plan as Kell Brook, but replaced with Danny Jacobs and his power and his punch. So I see him doing the same thing. Uppercuts inside, right under the guard, like Brook done. Brook was able to get that left hook right up the guard, because Golovkin, again, doesn't move his head left nor right. He just comes straight in, and if you notice Golovkin's training, he trains to have the endurance and the conditioning to take those type of shots. He does the Mike Tyson-ish, drills, where he exercises his neck a lot. And I think that what gives him the edge. And I don't think, he has a good chin, but I think it all comes from conditioning. Golovkin trains like an old school fighter. He doesn't train like the new guy. He says, I'm away from my family 2 or 3 months at a time. What do you think that he's married, right? So what do you think that means? You think he likes to have sex? Ask yourself that question. And because it's one of them situations where, Golovkin really takes his craft seriously. Other fighters, Broner, Mayweather, these guys, they slamming. You know what I mean? They're coming empty sacked to the ring. They ain't, they just, deal with conditioning. This guy really believes in, hey, I'm going to use every particular advantage, and I'm going to use that, no sex means no sex. And I don't think he does, and I kind of picked that up. I'm like, wow, you ain't seen your wife in 2 or 3 months. You know what I'm saying? Unless you got you some side thing or something. But, again, Golovkin, man, he trains like an old school fighter, and he knows what his flaws are, but he just really conditions himself, for his flaws, because he knows he's going to get hit. So, like Kell Brook was quicker, he was faster, he had better foot movement, but Golovkin was relentless, and he was cutting off the ring. It's going to be a very interesting fight, man, because I see, him jabbing. If Danny Jacobs, and I've seen him kind of countering, with a right over the jab of Smith. I don't know if he can do that with Golovkin, but if he could, that would be vital, and that would be a great tool, especially in the middle of the ring. So, but if he ever gets on the ropes, that's when Golovkin is just going to rip shots to the body, and to the head, and I think that was, if Danny wins the inside in the middle of the ring game, if he wins the inside game, because Golovkin's not really an inside fighter neither. He takes punches to show how tough he is, kind of like Ruslan, another, Eastern European fighter, right? But he's not an inside fighter. If Jacobs can beat him in the middle of the ring, that's where he should keep him. So his game plan should be to stay in the middle of the ring, beat him punch for punch. For every punch or every 2 punches that Golovkin throws, he needs to throw 5. But they need to be snappy punches. They don't need to be just winging arm shots, because he was throwing a lot of those in the Ishe Smith fight. You know, he was just throwing a lot of punches just to stay busy. It was almost like some nervous energy going on for a minute. And I was like, well, wait, you know, why are you just, you know, it didn't even make any sense for him to throw those punches. And he almost threw 900 punches in that fight. So, you know, and then Smith was still able to get in after, you know, he took a break from throwing 7, 8 punches. But these particular punches that he needs to throw against Golovkin needs to be 4 to 5 to 6 punches, but hard punches. And he has to have an exit strategy. You know what I mean? He has to punch like himself, but move like Brooke or Lara, one of those guys that can, you know, box, sting, and move. Box, sting, and move. That's what he needs to do, because he ever gets on the ropes with Golovkin. And a lot of people think, well, Golovkin has good body punches. He does. However, if you noticed when I seen him fight Brooke is well in condition. He's conditioned really well. You know, 6-pack, ripped up. You know, so is Jacobs. So you can compare those 2 fighters. If you notice with Golovkin, he hurts people to the body that are soft-centered. Not guys that are in shape. You know, you've seen him rip to Kell Brook's body, but those are not the punches that hurt him. And I don't think those will be the punches that hurt Danny Jacobs, because those type guys are athletic and they're in shape. They're conditioned to take those punches. You know, and I believe that Danny Jacobs will be conditioned enough to take a body punch. You know what I mean? I think he would hit him hard enough for him to drop his hands when he gets in the inside, and he'll probably go to the body, then, you know, fake upstairs. And, you know, and those are the type of exchanges that will hurt Danny Jacobs if he gets on the ropes. He finds himself on the ropes, that's a no man's land. That's only advantage Golovkin. You know, but again, that's given if Danny can beat him in the middle of the ring. If he can beat him in the middle of the ring, keep him in the middle of the ring. But back to the body shots of Golovkin, they're hard. You know, a lot of people I like to compare it to Mickey Ward, Irish Mickey Ward. You know, one of the best body punchers in the business. You know, his left hook was crucial. You know, if he could stick it in that spot, you know, right in that liver, he can take you out, right? But Golovkin has, you know, that same type of punch, but only at guys with soft centers, i.e. Macklin, Lemieux. These guys, if you look at Lemieux and Macklin, these guys are kind of have a soft center. Gill, right? These guys get hurt to the body because they are not conditioned like they should, I feel. That won't be Danny Jacobs' problem. You know, I think if Danny Jacobs gets hit, it's going to be with a right hand or one of those uppercuts on the inside. That's given if he can beat him in the middle of the ring, because then Golovkin's going to pressure him and then going to, you know, and get him against the ropes and then rip to the body and the head, you know, and do that like a dance, kind of like Joe Frazier, you know, and that would be his, you know, moment to, you know, to inflict pain on Danny Jacobs. But we just got to see, and, you know, because the alternatives are endless, you know, on this fight. And I really look forward to it, you know, and I'll just, you know, just giving a little insight on both guys and what they can do, you know. Danny could throw some like arm punches. He could throw them, you know. He could pull a Sugar Ray Leonard and Hagler, you know. He could use every 10 seconds of each round and throw like 20 shots. You know what I mean? That could thrill and impress the judges, you know, on that behalf. If it goes a long, murky fight, you know what I mean? You know, Danny Jacobs can do that because he's the busier the fighter. Because Golovkin's not fighting for volume; he's fighting for power. That's why he shifts. He shifts for power. Everything is for power with Golovkin. Everything. You know, his jab is power. Left hook is power. Right is power. And another thing, Golovkin can change his mood. He kind of reminds me of Felix Trinidad. Again and again, I keep thinking of Trinidad when I think of Golovkin, because Golovkin throws a looping right and he throws a straight right. Trinidad's was a little better, but Golovkin can angle his punches and they're awkward. He can come down in awkward angles, you know, and he can come behind the guard, and that's another thing. If Danny Jacobs has his guard up high, Golovkin likes to come right around to the ear or to the temple, you know, hit you up high. And when he does that, that can discombobulate you every time, especially if you ever get hit in the temple. I have. That's the kind of punch you don't want to get hit with. So those are different alternatives and different punches that could work. Danny Jacobs has a left hook and a straight right. And if he keeps the combinations on